up and about with Peekskill United. We've changed venues, as you can see, and unfortunately with the pandemic, the only way we can broadcast our show is remotely, each in our own homes. But we have an interesting show, and it's a very timely show. Really two segments. First segment is Helping Hands in Peekskill. We're going to do a little survey of what's going on in Peekskill, neighbors helping each other. It's really the Peekskill we all love and why we all live here. And the second segment, and up and about, wouldn't be anything without it, inside City Hall. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the fiscal challenges that are facing the county council and how they're dealing with it, and some of the leadership qualities or lack of qualities that are coming out of City Hall during this pandemic. I'm Bob Sullivan.
I'm Bruce Bellum.
I'm Louis Segarra.
I'm Joe Torres.
Okay, so for our first segment, which we call Helping Hands, a lot of folks are hit hard by the economic crisis that's hitting our town, hitting the county, hitting the country. People out of work, just nothing going on. Some almost 32 million people unemployed. But here in Peekskill, we're doing what Peekskill does best. When it hits the fan, people reach out and help their neighbors. And Louis, you've been very prominent in that effort. You've been involved in a lot of the food distribution initiatives. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on, what our neighbors are doing for some of the people that are hit very badly by this economic crisis, apart from the medical crisis?
Thanks, Bob. Well, as you know, I'm vice president of the Peekskill Rotary Club, and together we've been doing a lot of things throughout the city. As soon as this pandemic started, we sat around and we said we're going to need to help the community. It's one thing we always do, regardless of what's going on, even more so now. So one of the first things we started doing is we started working with Feeding Westchester. Myself, through the Rotary, Chappie Manzer of Manzer Landscaping, Jonathan Zamora of Peekskill, Andy Stewart, our new city manager. They've been doing a fantastic job. We all got together working again with Feeding Westchester and got a site right in front of the field library. Okay. Now in the 4 weeks, because we're doing that every Tuesday from about 10:30 until food runs out, but we've been doing it for the last 4 weeks. We've handed out over, I would say, 50,000 pounds of food. Today alone, we gave out over 150 bags of food to the residents. And you can tell they're in need. They're very grateful. They're there early. We're taking and making sure we're doing the 6-foot distance, social distancing, to make sure everyone's working in a safe environment. We're getting a lot of volunteers. The Rotary has really, done what they always do. They step up, and we're getting other people to step up as well. Joe, you were there a couple of times. We got Maria Flores coming in. We got some really good people, helping out. So that's one of the things we're doing. Today, we were able to get an additional site at working with the First Baptist Church that's closer to the Dunbar Heights area. Because where we're at the center of town, it is quite a distance for the residents from Dunbar Heights to get over to that side. So we worked with, again, with Feeding Westchester, Jonathan Zamora, Joe Urbanowitz, and the First Baptist Church to get another site. We've got a ton of food there today. People are lined up. It was going fast, and we're really thankful that we were able to work as a team to get the other site there. It's really needed. You can tell by the amount of people that show up and really how grateful they are. So it's always feels great to be able to help our community. We're starting to do some. We did 15 deliveries today. So the folks that can't get out their houses because they're quarantined, they can't get out. The elderly. We're stopping by and dropping off. So, today was the first real day we started doing that. We had like about 15 deliveries. So, it was an exhausting day, but definitely well worth it for our community.
Yeah. But Feeding Westchester, is that like an umbrella organization? That's like a countywide organization, and they're the ones that source the food?
Yes. And
where do they get it from? Is it contributions, or is it a government source of funding? Or
I'm not 100% sure. It might be part of Westchester getting some funding from Westchester County and donations. But we've got together with them through Jonathan, and we talk just about daily. Figure out how we're gonna set things up, logistics, volunteers and things like that. So, I think we've finally got everything together. It's been working nicely. Dunbar Heights, we got the food there a little late today because of the logistics issues, but we resolved that, and next week we're going to be, right on point.
Okay, so you have two locations. You have the in front of the library, and now you have this new location near Dunbar Heights.
Right.
Okay, and what do you need to do to qualify to get food? You have to show an ID or anything like that, or you just come up and
there's got to be a need. You come up, no questions asked. We make sure you're 6 foot distance, and you come in and we give you a bag full of food, and a lot of times there's onions, potatoes, carrots, there's fruits and vegetables. They have some canned foods over today at Dunbar area. So, there's a lot of food there, spaghettis, beans, there's a ton load of food, and, it's just something that the community needs, and they're very grateful for it. So that's been great. Now, throughout this whole process, even and before the pandemic, every Wednesday, Rotary does send food that we get from Corner Colonial. We have a contract with them. Every Wednesday, send dinner over to the Jan Peak shelter, where we assist, and Bruce, you and I have been there many times, where we assist to serve the homeless. So that's something that, dear to our heart, and we continue to do. We've also increased the amount of food and donations that we send over to Fresh Pantry. That's also another big avenue, and another place that we give a lot of food to, donations. And from what I hear, what I've heard is that the pantry, the people that come there has quadrupled since this pandemic. So they're in need of a lot of food. Anyone out there, they can definitely drop off food to First Pantry or donate. They are in great need. Food goes fast. So that's one of the things we're also continuing to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to say something on that. The food is available more than one day a week. It's a Tuesday, but isn't there a Friday distribution also?
Well, I'm going to get to that for the food distribution. I was just hitting all the points that the Rotary's working on. The Jan Peak is something we also do. And on Fridays from 1 to 3 p.m. at Man's Landscaping Facilities, because it's a bigger facility, which is at 1060 Lower South Street. On 1, 2, 3, we hand out hot food. So, you come on down, whoever's in the car, you got 3 people, we'll give you 3 hot dinners. Sometimes if you need something for someone who can't get out, we'll give an additional meal. That's also working with Hope for Youth, Rotary Club of Peekskill, Manzer, and Gleason's. We're all together, we're working together. We get the donations from the organization. We give out the food, so it's been going fast. Also, from there, we also give a lot of food to the first responders. So, we're constantly giving food, sending the food to the Sun Valley Healthcare Center, our fire department, our police department, our EMS services, our volunteer corps. So, we're doing that as well on Fridays.
Yeah.
One of the other things Chappie and I have put together is we've started a GoFundMe page. Our goal is $20,000, and I think we're more than halfway there with checks that are coming in. We've been doing it for about 2 or 3 days, so it's doing pretty well. And we ask everyone who can to go to the GoFundMe page and donate what they can. You can find it on the Facebook, our personal ones, the Rotary, the Peekskill Community Network, all the different main Facebook pages of Peekskill. We have the link we can click on and donate. And you guys know, because all of you guys have donated. So we get real close to our goal. We just need another push to get that going. So that's one of the other things we're doing. One of the other things that Rotary has done is we've donated. In one of our meetings, we we donated over $4,000 for the EMS, the volunteer corps, ambulance corps, and it's a disinfecting fogger. So it's to disinfect the trucks after each use. It does it in a much faster than the way they were doing it, which was manual. It put people at risk, especially with the pandemic, and it took real long to get it done and put it back in use, the vehicle. So with the fogger, which they should be getting really soon, that knocks out a whole lot of time and gets the truck back in action, so we can continue doing the great work that it's doing. And one of the other things we're doing is we're also working with choice advocacy. We're putting together a opt-in call center, a call-in number where people can call in, having any type of issues, whether it's they need help with their benefits, they're having issues with their unemployment, they need the counseling with what's going on, someone sick that they know, they need to speak to somebody, any type of issues that should be coming out very soon. Again, we're working with Carol Boise of Rotary and Choice Advocacy to help our community to have someone to talk to and have a listening ear there for them. So we've been pretty busy. I got to thank my business partner because when I'm out there doing all these things, he's been taking the reins on what's going on. And, as you can tell, I'm here till late at night, making up for all the time that I'm out there. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And he understands how much this community means to me. And, he's always there, helping me with anything I need. So I really appreciate his help.
He lives here too. He's a Peekskill resident as well. So,
yes, he is for over 25 years.
So that's his contribution to put Louis out on the road.
Yeah.
Apart from the Rotary, any other programs that you're aware of? I mean, is there like an umbrella group that's coordinating all this, or is it separate efforts, or how's that working in terms of making sure that there's no gaps in terms of addressing the needs of the folks that are?
I've been working closely with Jonathan Zamora and the city manager. I know the schools also has, because today they had a delivery today. I'm not sure how many times a week they have it, but at the Peekskill High School today, the Feeding Westchester also dropped off food there. I know the schools also have a breakfast and lunch program. This is everyday lunch and breakfast program. This Saturday we had the Goleta House out there giving out dinners as well, and they gave out a ton of dinners. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Social media is really one of the places where you'll see a lot of it. The city manager has information on it. Dr. Zamora, who's a Peekskill, also has information on it. So we get together and we're trying to put together something so everybody can know where food is being distributed, what places, what time, what dates, and who are the people responsible. So it's a big effort, but it's something that we're really working on, and it's definitely something the city needs, and I'm happy to be part of that.
Yeah, and I noticed early on that I know the chamber was very active in working with businesses in terms of, there's a lot of resources for small businesses. I mean, really the backbone, they say the backbone of the country. I mean, and really the backbone of Peekskill are all these restaurants and all these small delis and even the artists. All these people run businesses, and all of a sudden nobody's coming in the door. So I know early on the chamber was very active. They had some seminars on how to steer your way through the, these federal programs, the PPP and the economic disaster loan. So everybody's all in it. And the thing that is interesting, and you mentioned the first responders. There was a piece I saw on Facebook. It was a fire lieutenant from some town. He says, what are they giving us all food for? We got jobs, I mean, there's nothing better when you're working, the shifts that these medical workers and the EMS and the cops are working. One thing people don't realize, you're a cop out on patrol, there's nothing open. I mean, you can't just hop in someplace and grab your little ham sandwich real quick for a couple of bucks. There's nothing. And so some of these great restaurants in town, some of the folks like yourself raising money for these real super dinners and lunches for these guys, it makes a difference. It cuts the ice. It really does.
It's also not even about having the money to do it. It's about the toll that it takes on a first responder. It's about those type of things. So they'll be, doing their normal job, and they'll forget to eat because they got so much on their mind. So if they go to the police station, there's food there. If they go back to their office, there's food there. We all know that sometimes when we have so much going on, the last thing that's on our mind is eating. When you have someone who you have to run and take them to the hospital because they need to be on a ventilator, you're not thinking about eating.
Yeah.
You have someone who's asking for help because they need to be taken somewhere to get food. You're not thinking about eating. So we want to make sure our first responders are taken care of. They're out there us every day. It's the least we can do.
Louis, I have a question. So after hours, if somebody needs food, is there a location that they can go to get food, or in case they don't have anything at home, or in case they miss the window of opportunity? So,
I don't really, I'm not aware of anything that's after hours. But we do have a lot of days where food is being distributed. We can make it, and like I said, we're taking calls now to drop off if someone can't go out there. But as far as after hours, I'm not too sure about, if there is something that's being distributed at that time. I'm not sure about that yet.
Yeah, there's really no reason for anybody to go hungry in this town. There really isn't. And like I said, a lot of the restaurants and a lot of the businesses, I know the Bean Runner has a deal where you come on in, and if you can't pay, it's on us, sort of thing. All these people are contributing, and so I guess it's really a question, and I hope that our show here tonight helps a little bit. Is there sources? There's people who reach out. You can reach out to the Rotary. You can reach out to CHOP. Salvation Army, I believe, has a program of food distribution.
Salvation Army does have a program.
Yeah.
He's also a Rotarian, which is Moises Munoz. And, he works with the Salvation Army, making sure that, there's soup every day. I think they run like a soup kitchen every day.
Yeah.
So, they're out there and they're working hard. And, I give big compliments to the Rotary because they just don't stop.
And the churches have been involved too. Like you said, Assumption Church had a function, I think it's yesterday. We're filming on April 28th, but the 27th, they had a food giveaway. What about particular, here we are, we're talking in English. And a lot of what you see in social media is in English. Are there any outreach programs, or is there any assistance either through the Rotary or any of these other charitable organizations to specifically target some of the folks in the Latino community who may not be proficient in English, may not know where to reach out? How's that working out?
We work with a lot of individuals in the Hispanic community as well. We let them know it's posted on social media. It's communicated with a lot of the Hispanic people who deal either with the Hispanic community, the Spanish church, and stuff like that. And a lot of the residents who do come up for the food distribution are Hispanics. So that's how I know the word is getting out, because we do have a great number of Hispanics coming in there, African Americans as well. But I do see that they're out there and they know about the food program. So all the different people that are putting the word out, it is getting to the Hispanic community, and we're very grateful for everyone who's doing their part to making sure everyone in the community knows what's going on.
Great. So where's a good source of people who want to help? Is there opportunities for people to volunteer to help you out, either the Rotary or any of the other organizations?
Right now, we've been getting a lot of volunteers. I think for the moment we're several volunteers, and we're always happy to get volunteers. We don't want to be at a point where we're stepping over each other's foot to complete the task. One of the things like we were doing, and I had mentioned the GoFundMe page that we're doing, we will take donations as far as monetary donations. There's $1, $10, because what we're doing with that program, when we help feed the first responders, is we're using local businesses to buy the food from. Mm-hmm. So it's a whole circle. We're using local businesses to feed local responders and stuff like that, local volunteers. It's all in the circle, and that's where we can use the help right now. A lot of volunteers have stepped up for their time, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I know, like particularly John Sharp at with the Gleasons and the Birdsall House. He's the one who prepares the hot meals for the Manzer program on Friday. So that's a win-win for him. He gets to employ some of his people. It's a contribution overhead. He's certainly not making any money on it, but it keeps his operation going and able to maintain inventory. And plus, he can source the food much easier. Restaurants have those sources.
And with John, is never about the money. It's always about what can I do to help the community, and he's always out there. So we appreciate everything he does.
Well, I know him and Louis Lanz are involved in this 1 million gallons of soup initiative, and and they're taking care of workers in their industry, which certainly in Peekskill got hurt very hard. So there's a lot of people. That's Peekskill at its best. That's what we do here, and we volunteer. We reach out to people. I've had people inquire about myself. I'm up there in at least one of the danger ranges there a little bit, but people ask, make sure we're all right. In our neighborhood here, I live up in the woods. People are checking out, looking in on other folks. We've had some people that have come down with the virus and had some bad outcomes as a result. And So it's a different time for all of us. And again, it's the city that I moved to 31 years ago. It reminds me very much of my hometown where I grew up. People reach out, they help out, and don't expect anything for it. It's not the money. It's not the accolades. It's just helping people and making sure that they get through this thing, because it's tough on all of us. There's no question about it. So, well, thanks, Louis, for that presentation, and thank you for all you do. And Joe, I know you've been out there for the food giveaways as well, we can't thank you enough for what you do for the city.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Okay. So our next segment, inside City Hall. What would an Up and About with Peekskill United be without City Hall? There's a lot going on. The city has a lot on its plate. Certainly our city staff, the DPW, the police, they just got a ton of stuff going on. So they're keeping pretty busy, and it's tough, particularly City Hall's closed now. And so a lot of city services are cut back. But, one of the things that was kind of a bombshell that hit last week, and again, we're filming on April 28th. This would have been the committee of the whole. The comptroller had an item on the agenda and said, by the way, we're having some revenue issues and we need to borrow $7 million through tax anticipation notes. Now, Joe, you were on the council for 4 years. And can you tell us a little bit about your recollection of what tax anticipation notes are?
Well, it's basically you're borrowing money on the future taxes that will be collected. And you have up to about a year to pay that money back once you borrow that kind of money. So it's not really a loan. It is kind of a loan, but you're guaranteeing the money for your taxes, basically. Okay. And, and usually we don't, when I first got on the council, because things were in bad shape, we did that a few times, because especially in the beginning, because we had no money. So we had to borrow money to make payroll. Right. And that's generally what we did, to borrow the money. This is kind of new to me, that they're borrowing money for the future. That's a lot of money. $7 million is quite a bit of money. And that's
a big TAM.
And yeah, it's kind of telling me that there's money issues there. And, they can try to blame the coronavirus, but this is, I talked to a few other communities, and they said, listen, I talked to Buchanan, they said they're losing money from Indian Point, and they're still surviving, and, they're going through the same thing Peekskill is, and they're not borrowing any money. So either, it's bad physical management, financial management of the money, and this is why things are the way they are now. Now, I've been seeing the writing on the wall since the last election. They kind of been, keep it quiet and not really tell you what's going on. And, you hear from some of the people that work there, they tell you they're not allowed to spend a dime. This is a year ago, that they couldn't spend any money because they didn't have any money. So, it's good. You got to remember, these, up until a month ago or so, the economy was very, very good, and everybody was making money. And that was the best time to put money away, especially if you're a city, when you had a lot of money coming in, and the taxes are, you're getting good money from the county tax and stuff like that. So I just don't see how they could be out of money in less than 45 days.
Yeah, you're right. We were 45 days into this thing, and there was a committee of the whole meeting last night. That would have been April 27th, where the comptroller came in again, and they said, well, that $7 million thing, let's maybe not so much. We're going to have to backtrack and think a little bit about that. A couple of the things apparently that changed their mind is the reason for that shortfall, and they call it a cash flow shortfall of $7 million, was because of the due dates of the county taxes and the school taxes. Because
like I said, I spoke to Buchanan, I spoke to Yorktown. Those due dates, really, they said this virus shouldn't really affect the towns, the villages, and stuff like that. Really, they won't really start feeling effects until June or maybe September. Okay. Because you already collected your taxes from March from the county. Right. And then you're looking to collect your tax again probably sometime in June, which you probably won't still feel the ill effects of it until probably September, I would say. So, and you're not talking millions the way they're talking about losing now. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of money that seems to be out there. $7 million to look to borrow that to put you in good standing is pretty severe. It's a lot of money. That's a big gap. Yeah. If they said $1 million, you can maybe say, okay, I could see they're making an adjustment here and there, but $7 million is big.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I said, she backed off of it though. She backed off a
Yeah.
little bit.
well, I
Say,
think they got a lot of heat. I think because people are saying, "Hey, what the heck's going on now?"
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there will be a hole in the budget that they predict right now, according as I understand last night. And one of the problems I have is, I'm not an accountant or anything, and none of us are accountants, but we can read
Yeah.
we all do budgets. We're all in business. We've been there, done that. And what I don't know is what I don't know. They're talking about a hole by year end of about $3.5 million. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
one of the things that was missing last night is a question from the council, like, how are
did we
going
get
to
here?
make it up?
Yeah.
And how did we get here? And I get it. Sales tax revenue is down. The county sales tax is down, but it's not non-existent. I mean, the sales tax revenue for the city, according to their budget, is pretty substantial. It's about $4 million out of a $62 million budget. It's about 9% of the budget. So it's gone down, but we don't know how much. Like you said, Joe, it's 45 days into it. Okay.
I mean, it's 45 days into it, and she's doing a projection, which is hard to project because you're already almost 6 months into the year. So even if you had 2 million out of that 4 million, you're still in good shape. So even say you go 3 million instead of 4 million, that leaves you $1 million short on your sales tax. But that doesn't bring you up to $3.5 million, and even though county tax and stuff like that. And they've been running on a skeleton crew anyway, basically, for what they have in City Hall and DPW and stuff like that. Because a lot of people retired, they didn't hire the people to replace them yet, and so I can't see them cutting back anymore. And something tells me that they're probably going to have to either do layoffs or something, to kind of get out of this hole. It's like anything else. We're all businessmen. And usually, we're making adjustments now. When I saw, and I remember talking to Lewis about this back in the very beginning, when they were just starting to talk about the coronavirus. You saw the writing on the wall that they could shut the state down like they did, the country down, and then things can get pretty scary. So I started adjusting back then. So did he, and so did you. This is what you do. As your future, you own a business. You try to make projections. And you try to save yourself way ahead of time. And I don't know if that's what they're doing, but that's you have to look all around you and see who's in trouble and who's not. And most of the other villages and towns, everything, they're doing okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're holding their own. They're not borrowing big money like that. They're not asking for $7 million. Maybe Yonkers, because that's a big city and they got a lot of things going on there. But we're a small city, just like your town's a small town, and you see all these other villages, towns. Nobody's borrowing money except us.
Yeah, one of the things the city manager did mention is, our, and this is a little confusing because I actually, in front of me, I actually have the 2020 budget in front of me. The comptroller said, oh, we got about $4.8 million in the fund balance. Well, I looked at the city budget, and according to the budget, they only had 2.3 million projected in the fund balance. They used 1.5 million for tax stabilization. Okay, and I think at the end of the year, there's only I forget what the budget called for, but it's only about an additional I think it was $80,000 is their projected addition to the fund balance.
The fund balance,
their surplus. Okay, so what they're doing, I think, or tried to do, is use fund balance to stabilize taxes. And Joe, we've been down that
before. Yeah,
down that road big time. So
yes, we did that once when we were there. We didn't want to do it, but things get pretty scary sometimes, and I understand you have to do that. But the problem you have, and being there once when I was on the council, that you don't feel like you're getting the real truth coming out of there, or either they don't know what's going on, or the numbers just don't add up to everything that's going on right now, basically.
Well, in fairness, though, you got a different comptroller. Ann came in well into your term,
and she was very good comptroller.
She's very good. She's on her numbers, but there's issues that come into City Hall. There's politics in all this, and so when they start talking, I know at the last week, Council Member Talbot is like, "Well, we got a rainy day fund, and it looks like a rainy day." You start nibbling away at that fund balance, and it's hard to put it back. It's like your 401k.
Well, once you take it out, yeah, it's kind of almost impossible, especially, in the near future. Things I think are going to be different as far as the economy goes and stuff like that, and it's going to take a while to recover. So now, if even you start taking away from that fund balance, and it's going to affect your credit rating, which is Moody's, right?
Yeah.
So and then they look at your future, basically on how much you spend, and basically it starts costing you money.
Yeah.
And,
well, here's a question. This is a jump ball for all three of you guys. We just sold, now there's $3.5 million, and I don't know the answer to this. I'm just running.
Yeah.
There's a $3.5 million shortfall. We just sold property on South Street for $3.5 million. My understanding is they used that $3.5 million, and you and I talked about this, Joe, a couple shows ago.
Yes.
They used the $3.5 million to pay down the bonds that were taken out to purchase that property on South Street. Our first show, I think we talked about this. That property cost the city about $10 million when they bought it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think by law they have to pay that money back towards whatever they borrowed to purchase that property, which is obviously $10 million collectively for both properties, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I assume they have to pay that. That money has to go directly back into paying the money back that they borrowed for that property, even though it was a loss.
A big loss.
Yeah, a big loss. Correct. Yeah.
So the loss on that would be $7 million.
That's $6.5 million. Yeah.
$6.5 million. Yeah.
Paying that over 20 years. That's on our credit card.
But the problem we had, and that was when Mary Foster was there. They jumped the gun to buy that property because they didn't want Target moving there. But it's kind of like just a bad business deal. I mean, any one of us would have bought that property. You would have had it checked out for any kind of property that had pollutants in it, like oil or whatever, and you knew it was a junkyard. So when they bought that property and they bought it off Ginsburg, he must have been like, one of them was off Ginsburg, and he said, "Hey, I'm not even going to double check." Okay, here, thank you, give me the $3 million. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah.
In order to clear the lien on that property, they would have to have paid the $6.5 million so the lien could be transferred over to the new owners.
Well,
I think that one was.
There's no lien on it. When a city buys it, they
Well,
borrow. They got the bonds. The lien is against the full faith and credit of the city of Peekskill.
They had,
Yeah,
they had to satisfy the bond.
Yeah, it's not a mortgage. So that bond's got to be paid down. One of the other things, I had a discussion, and I mentioned this a couple several weeks ago. I was in a meeting with the city council, and one of the things that I expressed some concern about is the city is on a credit card binge. I mean, all of the DRI projects, not all of them, but many of them, all have a contributory component from the city. Funding from the state, but there's some contribution, like the project with the library. There's I think there's a presentation, I think it was by the former mayor, Mayor Foster. The city manager was like, "Oh, we got to take on debt." They've taken on debt for the Fleischman Pier. They're taking on debt for the sewer, almost $3 million for the sewer line under the property that sold for $3.5 million. $3 million to secure that sewer line. They're taking on debt for the Fleischman's project. So, and we're not even at the stage of fixing water pressure and potholes and all
potholes. Yeah.
So I think the takeaway from the meeting last night, of the COW meeting, is everybody should just watch. Okay, we get it. The city is in an emergency right now. We get it. Police overtime, fire overtime, all that stuff. DPW. You talked about city folks for the food programs. There's overtime, all kinds of costs. We get all that. But how you dig out of it is something that you really have to be watchful, I think. So I think at the end of the year, when the famous budget comes out, it's going to be released on 1 October. I think what everybody, and certainly we will on this show, make sure that everybody understands where that money's come from. I mean, nobody wants to raise taxes. Nobody wants to raise taxes.
No, exactly. I remember.
Yeah, I remember too. I remember very well. But that had to be done.
Yeah, it had to.
That particular tax increase was recommended by the professional city manager. And as a result of that tax increase, by the way, the city got a favorable Moody's rating. Imagine if they hadn't raised taxes back then. What would we have done? You know, the police have a homicide or a couple of homicides in a year. You just say, well, no overtime for you today, guys.
You know, one thing I wanted to bring up was, you know, this year alone, you got to remember, you know, for them to say they're in financial trouble also. We didn't have a lot of snowstorms this year, so they didn't blow a lot of money on the budget for the snow. So even look at that money that was allotted for the snowstorms and stuff like that, and see where that money went to. I mean, because it should still be there, right? If it was budgeted for the winter time.
Yeah.
And usually we put aside money for that. And, you know, it was a mild winter, so you didn't spend a lot on heating and stuff like that. So, I mean, all these things make a difference.
Well, again, I think we're 45 days into this thing, and nobody really knows when the end is going to come. Hopefully, we're going to start opening up in May and June, but it's not really going to be back to normal for at least a year. So I think what's facing City Hall, I think we can all agree, are hard choices. You got to raise that money. You got to do one of two things. You got to increase your revenue, or you got to cut your expenses.
Yeah.
And so what goes on the chopping block?
Yeah, and you know, I mean,
slow start, Joe. It's going to be slow. It's going to take some time to get back to, you know, what was the norm. And we don't know if every business is going to open. A lot of them have been hit hard, so that flow is even going to slow down even more. Will the state bail us out? Will they, you know, get funding? We don't know. Will they share it with the localities? We hope so. I mean, you know, it's a lot of things that can be done. We just at a point that I would think we just don't know just yet, unless, you know, they do know and hoping, you know, it comes through. But, you know, the state's in its own quagmire. You know, they're facing a $15 billion deficit. So I don't know if they're going to be looking to help out our localities as well until they get their things in order. So,
oh yeah.
I mean, our budget, the city's budget relies about 6% is on state sources of funding. And so what's going to have to happen is make sure those sources don't dry up and the state comes to rescue. And right now, the state ain't coming to rescue. They ain't got nothing to do with it. I would be surprised. They mentioned last night that the DRI is still a go, but you know, that's $100 million the state's allocated, and 10 million to us, but you know, 10 million to several other communities. You know, people are going to start looking at it and say, you know, we don't have police, we got to lay off fire, we don't have DPW collection, and you want to build a covered farmers market, and we're going to have an art center. Those are all nice things when you can afford them. We could afford them 45 days ago.
Well, you know, the problem we have is, you know, you're going to, like you said, we're going to have to make a hard adjustment, and you're going to have to cut certain things that you have to cut, and maybe even do, you know, you hate to even say that word, tax increase, but you know, sometimes you don't have a choice. You have to do what you have to do, and you know, they have a hard choice to make. Now, you know, a lot of times you see that they blame the city managers and stuff like that for some of the decisions he makes, but most of those decisions that he makes are guided by the mayor and council. So they tell him what they want, and he follows that. And you know, usually he'll stick to that plan. If he says, "Listen, I want to do this," and they tell him, "No, we're not going to do that," then he will not do what they want. You know, he'll do what they want him to do. And you know, people forget that.
Yeah. Well, for example, the tax increase in 15-16.
They say, "Well, city managers make it." He works at the pleasure of the mayor and council. So
yeah.
You know.
But you know, that gets into a leadership issue. You know, one of the things in this pandemic, you know, people look to City Hall for leadership. You know, we see some of our surrounding communities early on. Yorktown, Matt Slater was out in front. He was on, you know, he gave a briefing on public television, 6 o'clock every night, and with facts, figures, and people felt very comfortable about that. Here in the city, we got a slow start. It was about 2 or 3 weeks into it before they started doing these updates. I know the mayor and the city manager do an update. I think it's every Tuesday. And, you know, Louis, you were on the Thursday stakeholder meeting. That's very helpful. But who's coordinating that? It's Ms. Agadello. Now, you know, there isn't anything politically I would never agree with Ms. Agadello. But one thing I will give to her is her initiative, and what I think she's shown leadership in organizing that stakeholder thing every Thursday. There's a lot of information pours out of that thing. So, you know, that's a role that really shouldn't be filled by the, you know, basically backbench councilwoman. should be, I think, fulfilled by certainly the mayor or the city manager at least. So, you know, I think people, you know, we get a lot of our source material for this show from Facebook and social media and what we hear on the street. And, you know, a lot of folks on Facebook are and a lot of supporters expressing concern that, you know, where's the leadership here?
Yeah, we've been hearing that all over. I mean, you know, I mean, you're right. You look at Yorktown; it puts out something almost every day. It tells you what's going on, how many numbers of people have it. Gives you an update almost every day, and so does, I mean, Cortland does too. Yeah. And some of the others surrounding, and you feel like you know, they're letting you know what's going on.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot. Supporters even say that there's been no leadership here whatsoever.
Yeah, one of the things that troubled me early on, and again, the community has stepped up. You know, we had the cops, the police department, on Facebook begging for protective equipment, and the community came to the rescue. But you want to know something? We live a half a mile from a nuclear power plant. I mean, we got lots of stuff here. The coppers and the firemen, you know, there shouldn't be a question that they have a stockpile of what they need or a source to be able to get it. And again, I think the community, some business people, I know Sepp and Brian Fassett showed up with, you know, they begged, borrowed, or stole, whatever, got the coppers their protective masks. That's something that really shouldn't happen. You know, it just feels strange to me. But
no, I agree. I mean, you know, that's you know, we have to set our priorities as a city, especially for the police, the fire department, stuff like that. They're on the front lines doing what they can, and you know, we want to make sure they have all the best equipment.
Yeah.
To you know, to get through this anyway. Yeah.
So look, I think the takeaway from this roundtable is we got to watch what's going on down there. Things and remember one thing, that the budget at the end of this year, the budget they enact, is going to be the election year budget. Remember, there's an election coming up again in 2021, and it seems they come awful frequently, don't they? But again, that budget, you know, is always a year, and so issues of making hard choices are something that's going to be on the council and the mayor's table. Raise taxes, cuts, whatever it might be. We got to get out of this thing. You know, Peekskill wasn't a good place. It isn't a good place. It's got to stay in a good place, I think. So,
yeah, I mean, I remember when we were there, we had to raise taxes, and it was something we didn't want to do, but we were such in debt that it got us out of the red, you know, and into the black. And you know, even when we left there, it didn't take much to, you know, it won't take you that much to get into trouble again, almost like they are now, basically. Yeah. So even, you know, they said they had money in fund balance, stuff like that, but you had to watch how you spent your money, because this is I mean, it looks like we're heading down the road that we're in trouble again, and, you know, it could have been corrected if they just watch how they spent their money, I think. Well, you know.
Anyway, this is another chapter to be written, as we always say at the end of our segments. But I wonder, just if we do a round robin, as we always conclude our show, looking forward to what's going on. What's the biggest thing that concerns you going forward? Bruce?
I'll let Bruce answer. Yeah, first go around there.
I'm going, you know.
No, let Bruce go, and then Lewis, and then I'll take it from there.
Well, right now, it's getting people healthy enough so that we can get our businesses open, get them back to work, and get back life as we had it before. I don't think we're going to see it right away. It's going to take a while, but I think the biggest challenge facing us right now is getting these people healthy and really flatten out the coronavirus, the spread of it. I think that's mine.
Yeah. Lewis?
I think part of it is getting used to the new normal. Yeah. It's, you know, when you go out there, making sure you're on the social distancing guidelines, making sure you have your mask on, your gloves on. That, like Bruce was saying, the business can start opening up, and they won't serve you if you don't have your mask and your gloves on. So it's a new way of doing business. You know, I like to see it open up in a nice, safe, healthy way, because believe me, I want to be as busy as I am now in my business.
Yeah.
You know, we've been holding up pretty well. Entire staff is still on board, and you know, they're there every day. You know, we do Zoom meetings every day. They're there. They're fighting the good fight, staying, you know, busy and doing the things they have to do. So I'm really proud of them. And like I said, we have to do the social distancing. And if we can, let's reach out to those people who we haven't seen in a while. Because I'm hearing there's a lot of loneliness going on. especially our senior folks and stuff like that, and those people who normally don't get the chance to go out. But let's make sure we call on them, we check on them, we try to help them out wherever we can. And, we all have to be a little bit patient, and we'll get through this together.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah, I think, we have a long road ahead of us. We have to make a lot of adjustments. Even if business does open, you're going to see people wearing masks anywhere. I think you should for, probably at least till after January. I think you're going to see that where you can go places, and eventually they'll make it. It's up to you if you still want to wear your mask or not. If you feel safe enough. And I just hope, the community survives it. There's a lot of restaurants here. You kind of worry about what restaurants and businesses that have shut down totally. I mean, I have a friend of mine that owns a hair salon up in Mohegan Lake, and he opened up the old Flying Goose building. Remember that building?
Sure.
Yeah, and that's in Cortland, but he put a lot of money into that. And he was using everything he had from the other business that was doing well, and now they shut everything down. So, he, who knows? I mean, he was worried because you have no money coming in whatsoever now. Yeah. So, there's a lot of people out there like that, bartenders that can't afford to pay rent, that usually depend on cash, or waitresses that, depend on cash to pay their rents. And you kind of worry about what's going to happen to those people if we continue to go down this road where they won't open up and they won't go back to work. That's the only thing I worry about. Yeah. It's a big concern.
What I worry about going forward is, we opened our show with this segment of everybody helping out, everybody caring about each other. We're all in this together. Now, as we're opening up more and more, you hear the pundits and the politicians all saying, well, we can open up business. We can't go this way. And, the people who are most vulnerable, well, they can just shelter in place. Well, people that are the most vulnerable who can shelter in place. I'm in that age group where, I should be sheltering in place. But you know what? 10 people depend on me for their health insurance, their money, their home, their food. And what about that cashier at Acme or ShopRite who's in a group where she really shouldn't be out or he shouldn't be out?
That's right, yeah.
We're getting a little more into okay, we're all in it together, but now, we're in it, and the other people can take care of themselves. That's the thing I worry about most.
It's a slippery slope. I mean, like you said, there's people out there that are working that have to, doing the food and everything else, stocking the shelves. Yeah. Truck drivers, everybody out there. A lot of people, nurses and all that are going, right into the heat of the battle, into these hospitals and stuff where you can get it easily.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's a hard time.
Or some of them in that age group and have comorbidity.
Yeah, I mean, there's people. I mean, a lot of people that get it usually have health conditions, and they usually don't. Some people don't do very well or whatever. But you hope this dies down pretty much as it gets warmer. You hope they're saying it should go away a little bit and maybe come back in the wintertime when it gets cold again. So we don't know.
So anyway, that's our show for the night. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned. We'll be advertising on social media when we have our show, and hopefully we'll all be able to get together. None of us have seen each other for several weeks, but we'll get together and do another show and come up with the timely issues.
Before you go, just want to give a big thank you to all our first responders, our volunteers out there. They sacrifice so much just so that we can get through the day every day. So thank you so much. Everybody stay safe out there. Follow the social distancing guidelines and all the other guidelines to keep us safe. We will be back stronger than before.
Sure will.
Yes, we will. Yep, thanks. Have a good night, guys.
Night.